At my sister's wedding, I found my seat outside next to the trash cans. Hey, Reddit. I stood there staring at the small plastic chair with my name written on a flimsy card. Emily, it wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. My sister smirked when she saw me. Guess you don't count, she said. Then she turned and walked away, her wedding dress brushing the floor like she just won something. I took a deep breath, looked at the chair one more time, and realized this wasn't just about a bad seat. This was about everything. My sister Sophie and I used to be close, or at least I thought we were. But the moment she got engaged, something changed. She became someone else, someone obsessed with appearances, control, and the idea of a perfect image. And somehow, in her version of perfection, there wasn't much room for me. When she announced her engagement, she called me last. When she picked bridesmaids, she didn't even ask me. When I asked if I could help, she said, "It's fine, Emily. Just show up and don't make things awkward." I laughed it off then, but deep down it stung. Still, I showed up because I believed family mattered more than pride. I bought her a beautiful gift, a silver locket with a small engraving inside. To my sister always, I thought she'd appreciate it. But I didn't know that by the end of that night, she'd be the one who'd regret every cruel word. The ceremony itself was stunning. An outdoor garden setup, white roses everywhere, chandeliers hanging from the tent. Everyone was smiling except me once I realized my seat wasn't in the tent at all. When the coordinator handed me my seating card, I followed the numbers, expecting to find my spot somewhere near our parents. But I kept walking and walking until I reached a small table near the catering station, half hidden by a hedge and just a few feet from where the staff dumped trash bags. My name was right there, Emily W., neatly printed. I looked around, confused. There were empty seats near the front. I even spotted my cousin's teenage daughter sitting inside the main area. I turned back to the wedding planner. "Is this correct?" She looked uncomfortable. Yes, the bride was very specific about placement. Specific. That word echoed in my head like a slap. When I finally saw Sophie again, she was laughing with her friends. Her husband-to-be stood proudly beside her, shaking hands and smiling for pictures. I walked up to her and whispered, "Sophie, is this some kind of joke? My seat is outside by the trash bins." She didn't even flinch. "Oh, don't be dramatic," she said, sipping her champagne. "It's just that we had limited space inside. Besides, you'll be fine out there. It's quieter." I blinked, stunned. "Sophie, I'm your sister." She shrugged. "And not everyone can have the best seats." Then leaning in with a little smirk, she added, "You always make things about yourself. Maybe sit this one out." Literally, that was it. The moment I realized this wasn't about space. It was about humiliation. And she wanted everyone to see it. So, I did the one thing she didn't expect. I smiled, a calm, polite practice smile. Then, I walked back to that awful little table, picked up my gift from under the chair, and straightened my dress. For a moment, I just stood there looking at the glowing tent, the laughter, the sparkle, the people clinking glasses like nothing was wrong. Then I turned, walked past the staff, and left. No drama, no yelling, just silence. Because sometimes silence screams louder than anger ever could. I drove home, the locket sitting on the passenger seat beside me. I kept wondering what I'd done to deserve being treated like that. Was it jealousy? Was it something I had said, or was it just easy for her to make me the target again, like when we were kids and she blamed me for everything? I didn't know. All I knew was that I was done playing her punching bag. So, I decided I wouldn't let it end quietly. Not this time. The next morning, I went online and checked the wedding registry. Everything looked normal except one item. A honeymoon fund link connected to an account Sophie had made. Something about it caught my eye. It wasn't a shared account. It was hers. That gave me an idea. I logged into the store where I bought her gift. Then I canceled the custom engraving order, refunded the entire amount, and I replaced it with something else, something she'd never expect. I ordered a small wooden jewelry box, beautifully crafted, with a single silver key inside. And on the inside of the lid, I had engraved a message. Sometimes the trash isn't where you sit, it's where you belong. It was cruel, maybe, but so was sitting your sister by the dumpsters at your wedding. I wrapped it neatly, attached the original to my sister, always card on top, and mailed it directly to her honeymoon suite address. I didn't even need to imagine her reaction because a few days later, I got a call from my mom. Her voice trembled between fury and disbelief. "Emily, what did you do?" Apparently, Sophie had opened the box at the post-wedding brunch in front of her husband, in front of guests. When she saw the message, she went pale, then screamed. The entire room fell silent. And that was the moment everyone finally saw her for who she really was. But that's not where the story ends. Because what happened next in the days that followed changed everything between us forever. She thought she'd embarrass me once and for all. But what came next when the truth about the seat, the money, and her little secret came out made her wish she'd never mocked me at all. 3 months passed after the wedding. I hadn't spoken to Sophie once. Mom called a few times, mostly to guilt-trip me. "Emily, she's your sister. You embarrassed her in front of everyone." Embarrassed her? I almost laughed every time I heard that. I hadn't embarrassed her. She had done that to herself the moment she decided her sister's place was next to the garbage. But then one evening, everything changed. It was a Thursday night. I was sitting on my couch drinking tea when my phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. "Sophie, we need to talk. Please, it's important." My first instinct was to ignore it, but something about the tone, the please, made me pause. Then another message came in. "Sophie, I didn't know how bad it had gotten. I'm sorry." Sorry. A word I thought I'd never hear from her. I stared at my screen for a full minute before replying. "Me bad? How?" No reply. Just those 3 little dots typing, then disappearing. Finally, a third message popped up. "Sophie, can I come over?" When she arrived, she didn't look like the same woman who'd smirked at her own wedding. Her perfect hair was a mess, her eyes red and swollen. I opened the door, but didn't step aside immediately. She just stood there clutching a small purse, trembling slightly. "Please, Emily," she whispered. "I need to explain." I hesitated, then sighed. "Come in." She sat on the edge of the couch, twisting her wedding ring. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said it. "I deserved what you did." I blinked. "What are you talking about?" "The box," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The message, the look on everyone's faces when I opened it. I thought I'd die right there." I crossed my arms. "You humiliated me first, Sophie. You made me sit by the trash cans." Tears welled in her eyes. "I know. I was angry and I took it out on you. But Emily, it wasn't just about you." "What do you mean?" I asked carefully. She looked down, her voice shaking. "Daniel, my husband, he didn't want me to invite you at all." I froze. "What?" "He said you made him uncomfortable." She continued. "He thought you looked down on him. He didn't like how successful you were. Said it made him feel small." She sniffled. "So to keep the peace, I agreed to keep you out of the spotlight. That's why I told the planner to seat you there." I sat back speechless. "So, your husband didn't like me," I said slowly. "And your solution was to humiliate me publicly." She nodded, crying now. "I thought it would make him happy. I didn't think you'd care that much." I laughed quietly, the kind of laugh that hurts more than it heals. "You thought I wouldn't care about being treated like trash, literally." She buried her face in her hands. "I'm sorry, Emily. Truly. But now I think karma came for me." She told me everything. Apparently a few weeks after the honeymoon, she'd found out Daniel had been hiding a second bank account. Money missing. Lies piling up. He'd used her name to open a credit card. The same one that funded part of the wedding. And now she was getting collection calls. "He left last month," she whispered. "Took what was left of the money and disappeared." I felt my anger slowly dissolve into something else. Pity maybe. She looked up at me. Her face streaked with tears. When I opened that box at the brunch, I thought you were just being cruel. But now I get it. I became the trash I put you next to. For a while, I didn't know what to say. She had destroyed our bond for the sake of appearances, and now her perfect image had shattered into pieces at her feet. Still, despite everything, I couldn't help but feel a pang of compassion. I poured her a cup of tea and sat beside her. I didn't want to destroy you, Sophie, I said quietly. I wanted you to see what it felt like to be treated like you don't matter. She nodded slowly. I see that now. I wish I'd realized before it was too late. There was a long silence between us, not hostile, not bitter, just quiet. Finally, she said, "You know, Mom said you mailed that box out of revenge, but I think you mailed it because you wanted to let go." I smiled faintly. You're right. Over the next few weeks, Sophie started rebuilding her life. She moved back in with Mom and Dad for a while, found a job, and began paying off the debts Daniel left behind. We talked a few times. Not much, just little check-ins. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a start. One evening, she sent me a photo. It was of the same trash can area behind the wedding venue, now replaced by a small garden of roses and wild flowers. She captioned it, "Sometimes we grow where we were thrown away." For the first time in years, I smiled at something she sent. It's strange how humiliation can teach you the value of dignity. How being discarded can show you who truly matters and who never did. Sophie and I will never go back to how we were. But maybe that's the point. Some bonds break so that new boundaries can grow in their place. And sometimes it takes sitting by the trash to realize you've always been the only one who truly valued what was worth keeping.